icy cold waters of the Atlantic Ocean are getting hot, and how? The United States, in an overnight operation, has seized 2 oil tankers, one in the North Atlantic near Iceland, the other one in Sea. The one caught or seized near Iceland is Russia flagged, and the one that's caught near the Caribbean Sea was apparently a shadow tanker, a dark tanker carrying Venezuelan oil to China. Now, both the tankers were carrying Venezuelan oil, which is sanctioned by the United States. There is an embargo. It's interesting and a little curious how the 2 tankers could leave such heavily guarded waters, which are guarded both by the US Coast Guard and the US Navy, and reach this far. In fact, in the case of...
From Asia's largest news headquarters, setting the agenda for Bharat. You're watching Republic.
Thank you for joining us on the live report, ladies and gentlemen. This Wednesday afternoon at 12 p.m. Here are the headlines as we count down to that hearing in the High Court. She stole the files, she hasn't returned the files, and the Enforcement Directorate petition will be heard in the Calcutta High Court. 2:30 p.m. will be streamed live. Big meeting in the national capital soon. The government, the Defence Ministry, to take up the proposal. Will India have 176 Rafales in its air fleet soon? Republic confronts a Malaysian minister in the national capital. On Zakir Naik, Malaysia goes completely silent. Dodge questions on the terror preacher who's hiding on Malaysian soil. Indian Army foils multiple drone infiltration bids by Pakistan in 48 hours. We have fired at Pakistani drones that have been spotted at the line of control. As protests escalate in Iran, Trump has asked the people of Iran to come out and target the Iranian regime, Iranian forces, Iranian government. Is a strike loading, he says. Help is on its way. "22 killed in Thailand as a crane falls on a passenger train." In a few hours from now, precisely about 2 hours, the Enforcement Directorate petition in the Calcutta High Court will be heard. Now, the Enforcement Directorate went to the Calcutta High Court. They couldn't get a hearing last week as Mamata Banerjee stole the files during a live raid, and they went to the Supreme Court. Now, this afternoon at around 2:30 p.m., the Calcutta High Court will be hearing the petition filed by the Enforcement Directorate. And the Enforcement Directorate has in its petition, they have filed a 160-page petition. They have spoken about the state of affairs in West Bengal, talking about the repeated attacks on investigating agencies, saying that there is a shocking state of affairs in West Bengal. And in their petition, the Enforcement Directorate has in fact questioned Mamata Banerjee, questioned the DGP, questioned the state machinery, even the commissioner, and has accused them of being parties to the serious offences that have taken place, which included the Chief Minister and the Chief Secretary barging in during an ongoing raid, threatening the Enforcement Directorate, adding that files were snatched, officers were threatened. All of this is part of the Enforcement Directorate petition that will be heard in a short while from now. Not just that, the ED, in a very interesting mention, has also said that Mamata Banerjee's party workers, namely Trinamool Congress workers, were hell-bent on blocking the court, which is the Kolkata High Court. And they have said that calls were made to different party cadres asking for them to come into the court and block the court, saying that her workers, strong words, her workers, referring to Trinamool Congress workers, creating a ruckus and commotion in court, adding that they were called to court. WhatsApp chats show that party members were called to the High Court to try and block any hearing that could have possibly taken place last week. The ED, in fact, even wrote a mail asking for an urgent hearing, but that too was blocked. Okay, Shravan is joining me live from the Republic newsroom. Shravan, in the Calcutta High Court, what was the ED petition and what are we expecting this afternoon?
Well, in fact, Enforcement Directorate is asking for a Central Bureau of Investigation to take place. They believe that the Chief Minister is responsible for the destruction of evidence. Now, that is a massive charge that has been leveled against a sitting Chief Minister. The reason being is that when the searches were being carried out at I-PAC co-founders' residence, Pratik Sidha, the Chief Minister, along with top bureaucrats, which also includes the Chief Secretary, DGP and the Kolkata Police Commissioner, they were all present there. And you had only 3 officers of the Enforcement Directorate and, of course, accompanied by a paramilitary force there. But it seems that the Chief Minister, the moment she barged in, she basically demanded that the Enforcement Directorate hands over all the items that have been recovered so far, or the items that have been seized. And it does not end there. According to the petition that has been filed by the Enforcement Directorate, it seems that the Chief Minister did actually threaten the punch witnesses. These are independent witnesses who basically take on to record whatever the Enforcement Directorate does during a search that is basically carried out. It seems that the Chief Minister and her aides essentially instructed the punch witnesses not to record anything, to leave the premises, and to essentially say that they haven't recovered anything from those very premises. And that's the reason why, Niranjan, the Enforcement Directorate believes that there is a clear attempt that has been made to interfere in their investigation and, more importantly, to try and protect someone who is under the scanner. The man here that we are talking about is the co-founder of I-PAC. The reason why I-PAC is under the scanner because the Enforcement Directorate suspects that there is a 20 crore Hawala transaction that has basically taken place during the Goa elections in which the Trinamool Congress participated, and more importantly, I-PAC was basically handling their campaigns, and that is the reason why the Enforcement Directorate suspects that the proceeds of crime that was generated from the cow smuggling that had taken place, the cattle smuggling that had taken place, the proceeds of crime were basically diverted to Goa. That's where the money was actually used, and I-PAC received this money in cash.
Okay, now how is this different from the Supreme Court? So it comes up in the High Court and there is also a petition in the Supreme Court. Legally speaking, what are we expecting today and in the next few days? What is the way in which this case is going to now proceed?
Well, the Enforcement Directorate was undoubtedly in a tearing hurry because they believe that any further delay would only hamper their entire investigation. That's the reason why they had knocked at the doors of the Calcutta High Court. But remember, because there was overcrowding in the court had at that point in time given another date. Now, at the same time, they had also moved at the Supreme Court. It seems that Supreme Court has also now given the date here. But in all likelihood, since the matter is now going to be heard in the Calcutta High Court, it seems that they would perhaps go with what's happening in the High Court before they knock at the doors of the Apex Court. So it was basically a legal strategy that was adopted by the Enforcement Directorate. If the matter basically fails to find resonance in the Calcutta High Court, in all likelihood the matter would thereafter be pursued in the Supreme Court. But they are certainly hoping that the Calcutta High Court would pass certain directions refraining the Chief Minister from interfering in the investigation, and perhaps also order the Chief Minister to return the items that were basically seized by her.
Okay, thank you, Shravan, for joining us with those inputs, keeping a close track on the legal developments, expecting that hearing to take place in a short while from now. Moving on to the other big story we are tracking. Ladies and gentlemen, on the live report, we have details of a significant development that is likely to take place in a few days from now when India takes up the critical 3.25 lakh crore deal to buy 114 extra Rafale fighter jets from France, which could be manufactured in India with an indigenous content of around 30%. And this is likely to happen at a high-level meeting of the Defence Ministry this week. Sources say as per the proposal, the deal would also include around 12 to 18 Rafale jets to be acquired by the Indian Air Force in flyaway condition. Now, as per the proposal to be taken up for discussion at a high-level Defence Ministry meeting scheduled to held in the next 2 to 3 days, the Indian side is also reportedly asking France to enable the integration of Indian weapons and other indigenous systems into the French aircraft under the government-to-government deal. So we could be looking at a situation where if this deal goes through, and we don't know whether it will, but if it were to go through, we are looking at a total strength of 176 Rafales in the Indian Air Force in the near future. So that's the big breaking news update. 30% indigenous content in the new Rafales. And this is likely to come up for a meeting in a short while from now. In fact, it is going to happen this week, we are told, and the meeting will be at the Defence Ministry. So once again, 3.25 lakh crore, some of the big numbers that we are looking at, 3.25 lakh crore, that's the value of the deal. 114 Rafale fighter jets that India will be looking for. Manufactured in India, indigenous content 30%, and the deal would include around 12 to 18 Rafale jets to be acquired by the Indian Air Force in a flyaway conditions. And as per the proposal to be taken up for discussion at the high-level meeting that is likely to take place in the national capital, the Indian side could also ask France to enable integration of Indian weapons and other indigenous systems into the French aircraft under the government-to-government deal. Now, that was one concern that many experts had on the compatibility of Indian weapons and whether Indian weapons in indigenous systems can be integrated into the Rafale. Whether that can happen will have to be seen. And if approved, this could be India's largest ever defense deal. Largest ever defense deal, and could take the number of Rafale jets in the Indian military to about 176. We already have about 36 Rafale jets in our fleet. 26 of them have been ordered by the Indian Navy. 36 are already in operation. And once approved, this will go up for final clearance by the Cabinet Committee on Security. I have Major General Asthana joining us on the broadcast. General Asthana, of course, there is a lot of debate on whether we should go in for a French Rafale. Even the Russians have been lobbying. But let's get down to why the Indian Air Force needs more fighter jets in this critical situation where we are surrounded by Pakistan, which is being helped by China, and China itself, and Bangladesh.
See, India is the only country in this world which has two nuclear neighbors with which we have the border issues, and both of them are in collusion with each other. And therefore, the aircraft industry of China is helping out Pakistan, so we have both the adversaries getting the fifth generation aircraft in the bargain. With the result, if the kind of squadrons which we expect, I mean 42 was the old figure actually, but forget about 42, we are almost 29 squadrons which are serviceable. So in that case, and the asymmetry between the air power, which is very critical component of the battlefield domination, in that case, if we have 29 and Pakistan has about 21, 22, which includes some of the F-16s and the future induction of the fifth generation aircraft, then we cannot only depend on the skills of our pilots that they will be able to create the kind of favorable air situation and air superiority which we need for future operations. So therefore, we need to buy aircrafts, the fifth generation aircrafts or the state-of-the-art aircrafts immediately. We certainly want to be Atmanirbhar, and therefore we are looking at Tejas, but then there is a problem with engine. Americans have delayed it for whatever reasons, but then the fact is we still do not manufacture engine, and therefore there is an issue to clear this gap. Even our own the medium range fighter that is going to come up in a much later time frame, and we cannot wait that long because the gap between the two and the challenges on the external threat are far too many to be waiting for that long. So therefore, we need some modern aircraft. There is no doubt about it. Certain aircrafts we already needed for our aircraft carrier. Now we raised the aircraft carrier. We have the aircraft carrier, but we don't have the aircrafts. So some of these Rafales are certainly required for the aircraft carrier. And Rafale is a tested aircraft in a manner that we have been able to fit and configure it to our requirement. So in that particular case, I think these Rafales will plug the gap which exists between now and till the time we produce our own fifth generation aircraft. So some gap will be filled, and I think that would be good in a manner that now we are looking at 30% indigenization, although they will not give the source code. But then even a little bit of indigenous capability now, I think is going to perhaps help us out in maintaining these aircrafts. If we make and if we keep increasing the indigenous capability or indigenous content of this aircraft, I think we'll be better off. And I'm sure people who are negotiating will negotiate the transfer of technology accordingly to make sure that it's not only a one-time buy, but it helps us in developing our own technologies and maintaining the fleet of Rafale which we have without external help. Back to you.
Okay, thank you for that. I'll leave it at that. Keeping a close track on that meeting, ladies and gentlemen. One of the questions that India has been asking from Malaysia is on whether Zakir Naik will be extradited. Zakir Naik has been shielded so far by Malaysia, and Republic questioned a top Malaysian defense official who was in Delhi attending an event that focused on defense preparedness and security. And we asked the defense official of Malaysia whether Zakir Naik would be sent back. Here is what he said.
Zakir Naik, Mr. Harun, given his alleged role in the in inspiring the 2016 Dhaka cafe attackers, he has a permanent residency there in Malaysia. What are the steps that you're taking to curb such radicalization, such influences, and why there's no substantial action against him yet?
As you know, I represent the Ministry of Defense. This is under the ambit of our internal security, so I cannot comment on that.
My next question around the same thing. There are multiple charges against Zakir Naik here in India, like money laundering, and then there is hate speech, there is terror funding as well. How is Malaysia considering the extradition of Zakir Naik to India?
Again, this is the ambit of the Ministry of Internal Security, where I represent the Ministry of Defense.
Well, irony, because this particular conference that he was attending was on facing threats from unconventional ways and radicalization. And Zakir Naik is by far one of the biggest radical preachers of our times. Keep a close track on that story. Moving on, last night we had pictures come in of the Indian Army troops once again spotting another Pakistani drone and opening fire on it. Now that's the Pakistani drone that was spotted across the line of control, or near the line of control, over the line of control in that particular area, and we had to open fire. They were spotted entering Indian airspace along the line of control in the Rajouri district of Jammu and Kashmir, briefly hovered over the forward areas before retreating back. Our armed forces also activated counter unmanned aerial system measures, launch search operations to check for any airdropped weapons or contraband, which has been the SOP of Pakistan. They drop contraband, they drop arms using these drones. It's significant also because the Army Chief yesterday said that DGM of both India and Pakistan have discussed and spoken about Pakistani drones intruding Indian airspace and crossing over the LOC. And this has been raised at an official level by India. And it appears to be a deliberate attempt, because in the last 48 hours, there have been different attempts made. General Upendra Dwivedi yesterday also said that these appeared to be defensive drones, possibly launched to assess whether any action was being planned by India to check for our forward deployments, etc. So these were drones that were spotted, and these drones were countered by our systems that kicked in the last 2 days. I'll go across to Gursimran, joining us live on the story, as once again Pakistani drones have been spotted along the line of control. It's happened 2 successive days, so reminds us of what happened in the wake of Operation Sindoor, while Operation Sindoor was ongoing. Gursimran is now live. Gursimran, for how many days have these drones been spotted? It appears to be a snooping op to check for forward deployments perhaps, or of any preparations by India.
See, Niranjan, what has happened that it was first on the 10th and 11th of the January when the drone was spotted. It was in the Sambas Ramgarh sector, and then in the Samba sector it was same day that 2 spottings were done. One was dropping, that was intercepted by the border security force, in which they recovered 2 pistols, 3 magazines and 1 grenade that was dropped using Pakistani drone. Then it was on the 11th and 12th of January when the drones were spotted. It was in the Nowshera area, it was in the area of Dharmsar, it was in the Bharak area, it was in the Sambas Ramgarh sector, and in the Poonch Manjakot sector. In the Nowshera, the Indian Army opened fire on that very drone. Then it was a lull for a single day. Nothing was observed on 12th and 13th, but on 13th and 14th night, that is yesterday evening, we saw once again the Pakistani drone movement into the Indian area. Though it is said that it was a single or 2 drones, but the sighting was done at the multiple locations. It was under a single unit of the Indian Army that has been deployed in the Rajouri's Chingas area and the Mankot area, that they saw the Pakistani drones entering into the Indian territory and they fired upon the Pakistani drone. Though what we are getting to know that the drones were flying at a very high when it comes to countering that with the fire, so the drone went back to the Pakistani territory. This area where the drones were spotted in the Chingas area and the nearby area, this has an infiltration gap that has been used in the past by the Pakistani terrorists to sneak in into the Indian territory. So there lies a possibility that it was a surveillance so as to look that from where the terrorist can cross over to the Indian territory. This is exactly the same what the Army Chief General Upendra Dwivedi yesterday said, that they might be trying to push a group of terrorists into the Indian territory, but on ground the deployment of the Indian Army is intact to thwart any attempt of the Pakistani terrorists into the Indian territory. Then what we are getting to know that using the relevant channels, India has already taken up the issue. They have lodged a protest with the Pakistani side with the regular intrusion of the drones into the Indian territory, because this is not a drone entering Indian territory, but this is a serious violation of the airspace of India that mounts to a challenge that is being posed by the Pakistan and the Pakistani terror groups. So Indian Army is alert to the situation, and so does the border security force as well as the Jammu and Kashmir police. They want to ensure that there is no dropping, no surveillance that is being done on the Indian side. And we have seen yesterday also that the large-scale anti-tunnel operations and anti-drone searches, they were also underway in the border areas of Jammu.
Okay. Now, yesterday, the Army Chief said that we have taken it up with the DGMO of Pakistan. Now, what kind of engagement has been on? Do we have more details of that call, perhaps, that was made between the DGMOs?
See, it was yesterday, it was Tuesday, and every Tuesday there happens a call between the Indian DGMOs and the DGMOs of the Pakistan. During that call, it was conveyed to the Pakistani side that these kind of provocations, they need to be stopped immediately, otherwise it will have repercussions. Because see, it is not only the drones entering, as I have mentioned earlier also, it is a violation of the Indian airspace that can be treated equal to any of the provocation by the Pakistani side. And that is why India has warned the Pakistani counterpart. They have lodged a strong protest with the Pakistan side that this needs to be stopped immediately. But right after the Army Chief's statement, this another provocation from the Pakistan makes it very clear that Pakistan is in no mood to actually come to a situation where they want peace to be prevailing on the borders. They want the situation to escalate. They want to push more and more drones into the Indian territory, the surveillance drone, swarm drones, and any attempt that Pakistan wants to provoke India. And that was very clear. But the troops on ground, they are alert to the situation. They opened the fire as soon as they saw the Pakistani drones entering the Indian territory. The drones went back to the Pakistani territory. That has been confirmed to us after speaking to several of the officials of the Indian Army.
Okay, thank you for joining us with those details. Okay, we'll move on now to Gursimran. Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, as protests escalate in Iran, Trump has warned of military action soon. He put out a tweet last night where he warned of American intervention. He said help is on the way. So we're keeping a close track on that story. We'll take a short break. We'll come back after the headlines, the update on Iran. Coming up, stay tuned.
$13,000 placements last year. At Amity, we are committed to nurturing passionate, hardworking and proactive professionals.
थोड़े में ज़्यादा स्वाद यही तो है इसकी खास बात। वाओ मम्मा, क्या स्वाद है? अरे मेरे राजा।
दादी के हाथों का जादू और खुशबू से महकता घर, माँ की मुस्कुराहट और खाने की सुगंध। MDH गरम मसाला,
क्योंकि हर रिश्ता है स्वाद से जुड़ा।
आर प्योर शाही पनीर मसाला, डिलीशियस, हेल्दी एवरी डे।
The icy cold waters of the Atlantic Ocean are getting hot, and how? The United States, in an overnight operation, has seized 2 oil tankers, one in the North Atlantic near Iceland, the other one near the Caribbean Sea. The one caught or seized near Iceland is Russia flagged, and the one that's caught near the Caribbean Sea was apparently a shadow tanker, a dark tanker carrying Venezuelan oil to China. Now, both the tankers were carrying Venezuelan oil, which is sanctioned by the United States. There is an embargo. It's interesting and a little curious how the 2 tankers could leave such heavily guarded waters, which are guarded both by the US Coast Guard and the US Navy, and reach this far. In fact, in the case of the merchant vessel Marinera, which is Russia flagged and was caught near Iceland by the US Navy with help from the United Kingdom Navy,